panel are assembled and they're here to ask the questions that are going to be posed by the young people, but you do have a chance to chip in as well. As you've seen, the whole thing is being filmed as part of the project. We will get a microphone with you, but I'm not sure how well I'm going to be able to see with the lights on. But if you would like to chip in, make your point, particularly if we're talking about parents, I know we've got a lot of parents here, or if we're talking about employers, and there are employers here as well. Do feel it's for you to have your say tonight, as well as the young people. Right, let me introduce the panel. I've got on my right, first of all, Josh. And Josh is Josh Merritt, who's an ex-Stoke student, now a student at Suffolk New College, where he's the Vice President of the Students' Union. I actually know Josh because I'm a Fellow of Suffolk New College, and the Students' Union is the department I've been assigned to, so it's very nice to have you here today. Thank you. Then it's Jessie Long, who was so good on the film. Jessie, a Year 11 student here at Stoke High. Good to have you on the panel as well. Sandra Granger is the Local Service Performance Manager at Lloyd's TSB. Thank you very much for coming in. And Liz Coombs, many of you will know, Liz is Chair of Governors at Stoke High School. And then I'm sure we don't need to introduce Alan, actually. Alan Whittaker is Principal of Sixth Form College 1 and an ex-head teacher here at Stoke High. So thank you all very much. I need a round of applause, please, for our panel. Right. We have our students primed and ready for the first question. Hopefully, Sahara's got a microphone. Could we have your question, please?
Are teachers and parents putting too much pressure on us to do well in exams? How do we stop this pressure affecting our health?
So it's the pressure that's being put on young people for exams and so on. Alan, we ought to start with you on this one. Do you think there's too much pressure on young people?
I'm going to be a bit harsh and say no. Unfortunately, you do have to do well, and I think parents and teachers want their sons and daughters, the students, to do really well. I think society at large puts a lot of pressure on everybody now, and far more pressure than when I was at school. But I think if parents didn't give some kids a bit of a nudge sometimes, they perhaps wouldn't achieve what they achieve, and certainly the teachers need to too. But I think what goes with that, though, is support for students. For sons and daughters, we need to make sure that we put the pressure on. I mean, stress is part of life. To be successful and to achieve, you've got to work hard. So you need a framework in school, out of school, to relieve the stress, but you're never going to get away from it.
Wasn't it interesting that on the film, all the adults were saying that they face pressure in their jobs as well, in one form or another. So it's almost training for when you're going to be an adult. We all have pressure at every age. Josh, can I turn to you now? I mean, it's not that long since you were at school and doing exams. So do you remember it was pressured?
Yeah, I reckon it was quite pressured, actually, from all the teachers and parents at home. But it's for the best, really. It's to try to push you to get what you want to achieve, really, and the career you want to take.
So, Liz, is it too much?
Oh, sorry.
No, feel free to chip in on each other, that's fine.
No, I think you have to understand that the pressure that's put on you is always done with your own your interests at heart, your best interest, and it's to help you to achieve your best.
Jessie, you said about the fact you wish, looking back, you'd worked harder in the past and so on. So do you think the pressure's a good thing, as Alan has said?
Yeah, if I did have a little bit more pressure, I probably would have achieved more. I don't think there was enough pressure from staff at school.
They could have done more.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm expecting a groan to go up, actually, from the audience there. Oh, no, not more, not more. What about, I mean, do you think it's good training for adulthood?
I think it's absolute real training for what it's like when you are in the world of work. I've just finished doing a further exam at the age of 37, and I felt pressure, but it's part of what happens in actually staying professional throughout your working life, really.
Alan, could it not be that if a bit more pressure was put in lower down the school, it wouldn't come such a shock when the exams hit?
I suppose you could. I don't think so, actually. I actually think in the UK, because there are other countries in the world that don't get into this exam churn that we do here. We measure youngsters from about the age of about 4. Parents are obsessed with it just as much as the government, perhaps because the government tell them they should, so they follow that. And there are other countries around the world that allow youngsters to enjoy a bit more of their childhood, and they end up as really rounded individuals, and the economies in those countries are quite good. I don't think there's too much pressure. I don't think we need any more. I think the biggest thing is that when the youngster accepts responsibility. And so there is this balance between, at times, parents and teachers taking a step back and saying, you're on your own now, son, get on and do it. But it's a fine line, isn't it?
The second part of the question is about how we stop this pressure affecting our health. Do any of you have a quick tip on what you
Take
would suggest?
control.
Take control.
Take control. Accept where you are. Accept that you've got to work hard. Don't do like I did as a young lad who didn't work hard enough when I was younger. I learned, and I've had quite a good, happy, successful life to date, but I was very immature, and I blamed everybody else for things that didn't happen in my life. And it was when I actually accepted that I could take control that the pressure and the stress left me.
I thought you were going to say something like, eat more oranges and go for a walk or something, but so it's not that. That's not
It's
as
about
simple
a
as
balance
that.
in life. So
Yeah.
accepting you can work hard at work, on your studies, enjoy the footy with your mates in the sunshine. You know, when you're a bit older, you might enjoy going down the pub and having a pint. You can do all of those things and still work hard and have a good life.
Liz, quick tip on health.
I think it is keeping the right balance, and also try not to fill up on junk foods. I know I sound like a mum, but really, if you have a healthy diet, it really does help.
Sandra.
Have people that you can talk to. So whether that's in school, outside of school, you talked a lot about mentors, and that's something that we have in work as well, and I think they really can be your support when you need it.
Right, Jessie.
I agree with Sandra. Always having someone to talk to just helps a lot.
Josh, you're into sport, aren't you? Would you
I
say
am, yes.
sport?
I would, yes, yeah. Get on with sport. Don't just stick on that subject. Have a break, so your mind ain't really set on the exam 24/7. So.
Okay, well, hopefully that's some tips there. Anyone in the audience like to chip in at this point? Everyone's going to be terribly shy and leave it to the experts, aren't you? Yes, lovely. A microphone, please. We could run it across there. Thank you very much.
It's going to make me sound very, very old indeed, but I think that the world has changed in sort of the 25 odd years since I left school itself. And I think particularly of my brothers who all went into the building industry without any qualifications at all. And now looking at my children, where the requirements to even get on an apprenticeship are 3 to 4 GCSEs. And the sheer nature of the world having changed makes things more interesting for people, I think. Puts more demands on them and, yes, more stress.
There's more opportunities there. We've got to grab them and so on. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Let's move on to our next question. Microphone, please, to Ellie.
What advice can you give us now in Year 9 that will help us to cope with exams in the next 2 years?
Right, so Year 9, 2 more years to go before the exams, and any help and advice? Josh?
Well, pick the subjects that you enjoy and what you want to take up as a career. But also, you've got to study on your maths, English and science.
So you've got to have the core subjects, even though you also want to do the things you enjoy. Sandra, what do you think?
For us as a bank, it's really around your maths and English as an absolute basic. And obviously there's a number of different roles that you can become involved with, but really just having that basic knowledge. But having fun with some of your other subjects as well, and helping you develop as a person and to be able to stand up and do stuff like this, because the reality when you come to interview and you come to work is you actually need to be able to engage with people.
So having something to talk about, really. Liz, I don't know what other hats you wear in life.
I'm an administrator of a charity, but I do think the important thing is to try and pace yourself, so that it's not all work, it's not all play, and I think that is going to be crucial to you as you go into Year 10.
Jessie?
Just don't leave everything till like 2 weeks before the exam. Make sure you spread it out across the years and just don't leave it right till the end.
Are you speaking from experience there?
Yes.
She's so honest, isn't she? It's wonderful. So, I mean, when did it suddenly hit you that, you know, you've only just got this chance, you've got to really knuckle down?
About 2 weeks before my exam started in Year 10.
Really? That late? Was there a sort of something that somebody said or did?
It was just myself, really. I discovered that I need to do this for myself and not be an idiot.
And did you know what sort of career you wanted to go into?
Yeah, I've always wanted to do the same career since I was younger.
But you hadn't realised you'd going to have to work to get there.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for passing on your experiences, and we wish you all the best, of course. We're going to come back to you again now, Alan. 2 years to go. What advice have you got for them?
The same answer to the other question. Accept responsibility, organise yourself, and keep a balance between work and having some fun. You know, you need to enjoy life, but honestly, you have more fun when you work hard and you achieve. But it's usually, Jessie's an exception, sorry Jessie, usually the girls are really good at this, us blokes aren't so good at getting ourselves organised. I was a classic bloke who was immature and took a while to accept responsibility. Usually, Jessie accepted of course, the girls really get themselves organised and they are more successful in exams because unfairly we all take the exams whether you're a boy or a girl at a certain age. And girls are obviously at an advantage because they're more mature than the lads and they're ready for their exams usually, apart from Jessie.
Jessie, I promise you, when you're a managing director of a company, of a multi-million-pound company, or you're top of your profession, we'll have you back on another panel just to show that you did it, all right? It's not a knock Jessie night, I promise you, because we really appreciate you coming in today and passing on your experiences. Let's have Louisa's question, please.
In our film, we interviewed our parents. Should parents be consulted and be more involved in their children's education?
Oh, I'm sure we've got some parents in the audience who would like to come back on that one. They interviewed parents. Should parents be consulted and more involved in their children's education? Liz?
I think for a lot of parents, school is very, very different to when they went to school. And so there have been a lot of changes. And I think that parents sometimes find it difficult to understand just what you face now because exams weren't like that when they were in school. So I think the more that you can do to educate your parents, the better.
And sometimes mums and dads don't always see eye to eye or understand things in the same way as we saw so well in the film, of course, too. So, okay then, let's ask Sandra.
I think parents can perhaps encourage you to look at outside interests as well. So if you're starting to think about building a CV of experiences that you've had, maybe your parents have friends that they could involve you with in their businesses and really just encourage you that way, as well as obviously with the day-to-day stuff at home.
Surely sometimes I'm a parent, sometimes you think the school's the experts. We don't want to tell them what their job, we don't want to be one of these pushy parents that is always at the head teacher's office door and let's leave them to get on with it. There must be a bit of a balance to strike.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually, I'll be a bit controversial here, I think parents in Suffolk need to do a bit more of that. I've worked in Suffolk for quite a while, but I have worked in other places. And I think there are times when parents should be a bit more pushy. And I don't mean that, I mean that in the right sort of way. Asking challenging questions is really important. It keeps everybody on the toes. Personally, I wish they'd ask more questions about academic progress rather than questioning petty rules sometimes, because at the end of the day, it's not a negotiation about some standard rules, and some parents get really uptight about that. And I've been frustrated thinking, I wish you'd quizzed me more about how your son or daughter was doing in the maths, whether we dispute the length of a skirt or not. I think we've moved beyond that, in fairness. But I actually think it's really important, and lots of parents do. I know when I was the head teacher here, we used to get a really good turnout for parents' evening. It was very heartening to see lots of young people that were being supported by the parents. But this big thing about Suffolk at the minute, and could we do a bit better, it involves everybody, doesn't it? And that's parents. So don't be afraid to ask challenging questions to support your son or daughter, but make sure it's the right thing.
One of my daughter-in-laws is a secondary teacher, and she always says that the parents who ought to come to parents' evenings are the ones that don't come. It tends to be the keen and committed ones who are there, and you actually want to see the others as well. And probably that's true of who are here tonight.
Well, I mean, we've tried to make it easier, although Janet in the film made the point that we developed some good strategies, and then a new Secretary of State comes along and says you can't have a review day or something, which actually made it really easy to have dialogue with parents, really meaningful, but then that was banned because, well, I don't know why why these people ban things sometimes. So it's quite tough. We sometimes have pressures from outside of school that we can't do anything about. You've got to find ways around that.
I'm going to ask Jessie and Josh now. I mean, it must be, for some teenagers, they'd be mortified if their parents got pushy at school and got over-involved. I mean, can you understand that?
Yeah, but I wish my mum just done like a little bit more. She didn't. My mum was like a bit confused about the whole education system. She didn't really understand what was going on because it was so different from when she was younger. She didn't really understand. I'd ask her a question, she wouldn't know how to answer it because she wasn't well informed enough to be able to answer it. You know.
So should schools do more to inform parents?
Yeah, I think if you informed parents more, then more students may be able to succeed more.
Josh, I mean, were your...
Yeah, my parents are just the same as Jessie's really. So it's like not knowing the question and not knowing where you're at to, like they can just go, oh, so how's the homework getting on? Yeah, it's fine really, and I've not even done it, so it's actually
As a parent, I know that feeling, yeah, indeed.
Can I just come in there? I think that's really, really valid. I think there's quite a job to be done there. It's quite confusing, the curriculum. And as a parent, you know, I'm a teacher, and I used to teach a lot of science, but I was always very worried if I went into a French class. So it is quite a concern as a parent to know some of the technicalities. It's quite easy to have an argument about the length of a skirt because we've all got an opinion on that one, haven't we? You don't need a formal education. So I think there is some work that we could do to actually support parents to know more about the curriculum and what the standards are. I think they know a lot more than my parents did. I think parents nowadays are more aware of achievement and how youngsters progress. But it is a really big, tough subject, like careers. It's a big subject that's difficult to get your head around.
So Liz, what happens here at the school?
We have regular parents' evenings, reports back to parents. We have the school planner where parents can converse. We're also going to a new system. We're going to try a system that hopefully will go live to parents the end of next year, where parents will be able to see how their children are achieving. They'll also, with that, be able to see that if they're not achieving in one subject, then that's really out of kilter with the rest of their progress, as will the teachers, and we'll be able to monitor that as well.
So Jessie and Josh, you wouldn't be able to get away with anything like that, you know. Parents are able to look online and see how you're doing. What about the parents in the audience particularly? All teachers come to that. Do you think you ought to get more involved and to know more about what's happening in school, or you're more than happy to leave it to the head teacher and the teachers? Would you like to raise a hand and we'll get a microphone to you? You've got a question or a point? Lovely, thank you. Over this side, please.
I'm just picking up on something that you guys said around the communication between parents and the school. A lot of parents nowadays work long hours, so with regards to parents' evenings and those types of things aren't always able to attend. So it would be good to have like a communication system where you can actually converse with the teacher, whether it's like email or something like that, to actually promote the communication side of things.
So email or text or something of that sort? Yeah. Or even just be able to pick up that.
Because you can't talk to the teachers, obviously, in the day because they're teaching the children, but actually then after that, it becomes more difficult to communicate. And if you don't or aren't able to attend parents' evenings, then the communication side of things does break down.
It's difficult, though, isn't it? Because, I mean, Alan, you can't expect teachers to be on the end of a phone 24 hours a day. What's the answer to this?
Well, I think we've got to be perhaps more imaginative. All the teacher unions are going to shoot me now, aren't they? But the world is a bit more 24/7, and you could have, I don't know, thinking off the top of my head, people available in the evening to pick up questions on an online forum or something. So I think we do need to be more flexible, but I also do think that your child's education is really important. And if in your working day you have to find the time to go and see a doctor, God forbid, or a mortgage consultant to sign off for a new house, or a lawyer or something, I accept if you've got lots of youngsters and that's lots of parents' evenings. But I think if the school communicates in good time, I think parents should find the time in a year, at least once in a year, to leave off work early and get to the parents' evening.
Could you not have one on a Saturday or a Sunday?
Well, that's something else we should look at as well. Once again, the teacher unions will shoot me for that, but we have got to be more flexible. But I still come back. Being a parent is really important, and sometimes that's got to come before work. I know that's not easy, but it shows real commitment, and lots of parents do that.
Essentially, my GP now, we can actually ring the surgery and the GP will ring us back, and there'll be a time, 8:15, they'll ring back for a chat to you. So it can be done, and that was taken in because so many people said they couldn't get to the GP at the time they were open. So they've introduced this system. It seems to be working really well. Perhaps it's something schools could also do.
I think we do have parent mail where, we can communicate with parents, and it very much is, dialogue is important. I do accept that. We're always thinking of better ways to up our communication.
Okay, anyone else want to chip in before we move on? No? Okay, let's go for our next question then. Yasmin.
When you were at our age, did you know what you wanted to do after school?
Do you know, that's a great question, because that was the one thing that struck me on the film. Everyone's got all this great advice on planning your career and everything, and yet almost all the adults interviewed didn't know what they wanted to do at school and ended up doing something completely different. I think that's a great question, so let's go along the table. Alan, did you know what you wanted to do when you...
I'll be consistent. I said no on the film,
You
and
did.
I'll say no now still.
I just wondered whether you changed your mind having thought about it.
No, I don't think people should be too worried about that. I think it's important to want to do well and accept, I keep saying it, don't I, but accept this responsibility. I think youngsters that have got a real drive to achieve something are often very successful, and the important thing then is that you can always change your mind, because if you've been successful and you've achieved, even if you change career, if somebody's really good at doing something, they're probably going to be good in a different environment, and you're probably going to want to give them a job or a place on your course. But I wouldn't get too worried at 16 or 18, or even, I've got to admit, at 21, I wasn't 100% certain of what I wanted to do. In fact, I'm 50 this year, and still, who knows what the future's going to have.
Well, I've changed careers completely about 3 or 4 times in my life. So, Sandra, we haven't heard from you for a while. What about you?
No, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I left school and started work for the bank. But for me, I think working for the bank, working for a large company, has actually given me a varied career. I've done so many different things. So sometimes I know when we've done things like this at other schools and I ask children, what do you think it's like working in a bank? The standard answer is boring. And I can assure you that it's not, because while working for a big company, you get loads and loads of different opportunities, and all the skills you acquire are just transferable into different industries.
Liz?
I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a secretary. I wanted to go into the Wrens, but that changed, and at one point I was in finance. I now work for a grant-giving charity, and I always say I used to be a money lender, now I give it away, which is true. So I've changed completely, really. It's still office-based, I suppose, but that's what I think is my forte. But I think it's quite possible to change your mind. My youngest daughter wanted to be a legal executive, and now she's involved in social work. So she's completely changed. She did her legal secretarial training, started legal executive training, and just decided, no, that wasn't for her. And she's completely changed.
Josh, what did you want to do when you were younger?
I knew I wanted to do something in sports, but it's the subject within it. So it's personal training, coaching, and like even teaching, PE teaching, but it's what I want to do really. I don't really know what I want to do within it, but I know I want to do it within sports.
So Jessie, you said you knew what you wanted to do. You didn't tell us what it was.
I want to work in a school.
In a school?
Yeah.
Well, in a school, what, in the teaching or
in student support area?
Student support. Well, you could go into Suffolk New College and get involved with Student Union and you'd be on your way, wouldn't you? So that's interesting. So does that answer your question, that they all, most of them didn't really know what they wanted to do or have gone into sideways issues after that? Anyone like to comment on that from the floor? The fact, did they manage to change tack completely, or did you always know what you wanted to do and you've seen it through? Because there must be advantages to that, as we've already said, as Alan's already said. At least if you know, then you know where you're heading. No, we're all quite happy to leave it to the experts on the panel. That's fine. So thank you very much, Lee, for the question. Let's hear from Isaac.
What are the benefits of future education as opposed to apprenticeships, which will make us more employable?
Right, so we're talking about further education and apprenticeships, and which will make you more employable? Josh?
Well, these days it's more about work-based and work experience of jobs, really. But I think further education is better because you get more qualification out of it instead of like NVQ from apprenticeship. But it depends what you really want to take up.
Could you not be an apprentice in the sports field?
Yeah.
Work at a gym or something?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it depends what you want to do, really.
So did you consider that at all?
I didn't. No. I wanted to go to university and get a degree and move out that way, like physiotherapy. You can't just go in and just be a physio. You got to learn the backgrounds and ins and outs of it.
So is that what your plan is, to do Suffolk New College and then go to university from there?
Yeah, I don't know what I want to do yet.
We just
Something
know
in sports.
We know it's something in sport. That's the main thing. So, Alan, what do you think?
I think both routes are really good. It depends what you want to do. I don't think there's a better route. There are different routes, and the most important thing is that you really commit yourself and work hard and achieve. And nowadays, there are lots of different pathways into professions. There are some professions, you know, if you want to be a doctor, there's no way around it. You have to get a degree in medicine, but you won't get a job. You won't even get a place, probably, unless you're really well connected, I would imagine, to read medicine, unless you've got a little bit of work experience. So you've done some volunteering. Quite a lot of people that train in the medical field have worked as healthcare assistants, so that they've done other things before or after their formal training. So there's no one good route. There are lots of different routes, and it really depends on what you want to do.
So are we getting back to this point that came up several times about hobbies and interests and making yourself more confident by doing the volunteering in a related field to something you might be interested in? It will all help.
Yeah, it really helps. I do think, though, there's a little bit of a misunderstanding with some people where they say personality is more important and attitude and all of these things than qualifications. And having have a conversation recently with an employer that said that's more important and I'm not interested in the qualifications. Sadly, the bottom line is if you haven't got the qualifications in the first place, they won't start to look at your personality or your attitudes. And just for some people, they think, oh, well, that means the qualifications don't matter. They do. You don't even get into the race unless you've got the qualifications. It's a bit like an athlete. You've got to get a qualifying time to get into the Olympics. And if you don't reach the qualifying, you can't even compete. So it's really important that you get good qualifications at high school. You know, so when you're at Stoke, as everybody said, English and maths are really important, whatever you want to do. So you've got to get a good grounding, and then the personality and the attitude and the can-do, all of that really counts.
Sandra, apprenticeships. I mean, is that something that
It's not something that the bank actually offer at the moment. We have apprenticeship programs once you are an employee that the bank actually pay for, and there are further education within that. So we've actually got employees at the moment that if they have managed to get into the bank but don't have the maths and the English qualifications, that we will actually pay for them to resit that. So there's a lot of investment once you're involved. But what we are looking to try to do, and for me when I recruit, it's actually quite hard to find people. The GCSEs get you to my door. It's you then as a person that will actually secure the job, but it's actually quite hard to find people with the passion and the drive. So for us as an employer, what we want to do is get more involved with schools so that we can identify people perhaps at the colleges that have got the grades, they've made that bit, but actually to help them with the personality, because for us, we then know that we've got people that really do have a desire to come and be successful in business. So that for us is really important.
Liz, how do you view apprenticeships and further education?
I think it's very much horses for courses and what you want to do, but it is vital to get those basic exams and qualifications, because they do tell us now that we're educating students for jobs that haven't yet been invented. And if you haven't got those basic qualifications, you won't have anything to build on if you do have to change tack. I was lucky I'd got my basics so that as I've changed, I've been able to do it. And indeed, my daughter, I've mentioned earlier, she had those basic qualifications, so she could change. Without them, she would have had to go back to basics. And for some people, and your stage in life, having to go back to basics will be a barrier.
Jessie, have you looked into the possibility of an apprenticeship, or is it going to be college, or what?
I've never looked into an apprenticeship really. I've always wanted to go to further education or go on to university as well.
Right, so your path is there and you know
Yeah, and
where
I'm
you're
following it.
heading. And we're wishing you good luck for it as well. Thank you. And let's go talk to Scott. Because I think Sandra's going to be very interested to hear from you, Scott. You've met Scott. Oh, Scott's fame has gone before him. Scott, over to you.
Before this project, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I left school, but after visiting Lloyd's Bank, I'd really like to go into banking. Do you think we are too young to choose what we want to do in life? Why?
Can I ask you why you like the idea of banking?
I don't know.
You like pressing the buttons, Scott, didn't you?
You just like, it wasn't what you thought it was going to be?
No.
No, completely different. You thought it was going to be boring, and it wasn't. Right, so, Sandra, does that sort of gladden your heart?
Oh, I've got a big smile on my face. I think that's fantastic. And I think, to be fair, that's why employers like us need to get involved, because we need to show you a different light. Especially when I go into some of the younger schools, a lot of the children that you meet want to be singers, dancers, actors, and actually will they all get there? So if we can actually try...
Oh, TV has so much to answer for, doesn't it?
But if we can make the real life more interesting and more exciting, then I think we've achieved part of the battle, really.
Scott asked, do you think they're too young to know what they want to do?
No, I think you're old enough to know what you like and what you think you'll be good at. And from there, that path could take you anywhere. But I think the fact that you've got a direction at this age already will really push you to do well in your exams. And really, that's what everybody's saying today, is just get those basics and then who knows what could happen.
Right. Age, choosing what you want to do. Alan?
No, if you've
not
got
a problem, too
if you've
young.
got a passion for something or something sparked your interest, you know, whether it be a cashier pushing buttons in a bank or whatever it might be, and actually spending the time in a bank and seeing the workings and wanting to work for one of the big corporates, if that's really what fires you up, go for it. Lots of people make decisions very early on, don't they? You hear these amazing life stories of this individual at 5 years old decided they want to do something, and they get to the top of the profession because they're driven to do that. And then others, we start off on something. I've changed my career, but it still comes back down to really working hard. There's no, but you need the passion to work hard because you want to enjoy life, don't you?
Could you not sometimes, though, not be aiming high enough when you choose something at a younger age? I only say that because I said that I went to Tower Ramparts, which I have to say was very good in some ways, but on career advice it was not good at all. And I wanted to be a nurse because my mum was a nurse, and I couldn't do that till I was 18, so I was going to train to be a nursery nurse first because I could do that at 16 at the college. And so literally nobody ever said to me, hang on a minute, Rachel, you could do A-levels, you could do a degree. So I didn't do my degree until I was in my mid-40s. I did it as a mature student with Open University. If only someone had said to me, aim a bit higher, girl.
No, I think that is, once again, that's an issue for Suffolk as well, really, that we need to push hard. It's a really lovely place to live. I've moved into the area and it's a great place to live, but it can be a bit cosy sometimes, and you've got to push yourself out of the comfort zone, and you've got to be supported to do that. The great advantage is if you do aim high, you don't quite get there, you're probably still going to do really well, aren't you? Whereas if you aim low, you can make life a bit more difficult for yourself.
I was once asked for a magazine article what advice I wish I'd given myself when I was younger, when I was a teenager. And I said I wish I'd have known that there's a big world outside Suffolk. I've lived in Suffolk all of my life and I love Suffolk, but I just wish I'd been brave enough to go off and find a life outside and perhaps come back later on.
Yeah, and that's why people in school that know you well, Wendy made the point on the film about how critical careers education is. I think all staff, regardless of your role in a school, that's one thing that for me in the last 10 years has really changed. There should be more emphasis on people working in schools you can't be an expert in all careers, but it should be part and parcel of what everybody does, whether it be somebody like, you know, Jessie, who might be a member of the support team, you know, one of the teachers, one of the caretakers. All of us can play a part in encouraging youngsters to think about the many opportunities and encourage them all to really aim high.
Liz, you're nodding quite a lot. Would you like to chip in on this point?
No, I quite agree. I think Suffolk is very cosy. I was very fortunate. I was going to go into the Wrens because I wanted to travel, but then I met my husband and he was in the army and we had the chance to travel. And I got married very young, but I still had that opportunity to go out of Ipswich, go out of Suffolk and see another world. And there is another world outside Suffolk. And it can be very different. And it is lovely to come back. It's a lovely place to live. But I think it does you good to go outside and experience life somewhere else as well.
Sandra, are you Suffolk born and bred? Or?
No, I'm Essex. I live in Chelmsford, so I...
Did you bring your passport with you tonight?
I know. But again, working for the bank has led me to work in Surrey. I've worked in Kent. I've travelled around a lot, and I've done that for 6 months, and I've come back home. So again, working for a company doesn't mean that you necessarily will stay where you are. There's huge amount of opportunities.
Jessie, can you see yourself staying in Suffolk with your work, or have you got ambitions to go elsewhere?
I'm not really sure. It depends where it takes me, really. I'm not planning to go anywhere or do anything, just wherever it goes.
So it's each step as you go along and not look too far ahead. What about you, Josh?
Me, I haven't really thought of it. I haven't really thought of it actually moving out kind of thing, just settle down really, because I'm not from Ipswich either, so nice laid back atmosphere, I think, so it's...
We'd have nothing against Suffolk, do we, Alan? It's just this idea
lovely.
of, you know, there's a big
my
world
wife's
out
from
there.
Suffolk, my kids were brought up here. It's a great place, but I think we need to remember that there are lots of opportunities. I mean, the opportunities actually, Ipswich is a good town, and there are lots of opportunities in Ipswich. We've got a university now. You don't need to leave the county now to study at degree level. And obviously there are some world leaders in terms of the businesses in Ipswich, if you look at some of the organisations. So there are amazing opportunities. So I'm not saying you need to leave Suffolk to aim high, but I think it is important that
you raise the bar.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we do that in schools and colleges. You know, we really push the students. That comes back to the first question about pressure. We want you to be really successful. If you don't want to be a world champion at something, or and I'm not just talking about sport or the best singer, it might be the best care worker or whatever it is, but to be the very best. If you don't want to do that, that's fine, but everybody should have the opportunity to really be whatever they want to be.
Do please raise your hand or yell out at me if you want to join it. I can imagine all the parents here saying, no, we don't want them to move away. We want them to stay nearby. Let's hear from Jessica.